As we are all aware, textiles is a old, mature industry, one of the oldest industrial setup in India. And textiles has been one of the mainstay of the industrial and export setup in India for a long time to come. I'll just run through some numbers for your information that India is contributing 25% to the global cotton production, is second largest cotton producer in the world after China. China consumes everything what it produces and imports also because it doesn't produce so much as it consumes. Indian production of total textile is about 7% and the share in the world yarn markets is 25%. We are one of the leading exporters of yarn and also one of the leading market share globally. Textiles and clothing as a contribution to Indian GDP is about 4%, and textile and clothing unit contribution to India's industrial output is about 14%, and the contribution to export earning is about 11.5%. As a signification of the industry to the country, as a textile market, we are about 220 billion market approximately. And in terms of the textile trade, we are around 40 billion, but which has been stagnant from last 8 to 10 years. And this year probably we would do about 44 billion, and our target for coming 23-24 and 24-25 is around $60 billion, which should be achievable given uptrend in the textile exports. In terms of bales production, we are about 361 million bales, and in terms of production of yarn, we are around 5,675 million kgs. Coming to the India's share of the global market, China is undisputedly number one. They have about 40% of the market share. Textiles as a world market is about 1,000 billion, and China controls about 40%. Next comes India, Italy, Germany, Bangladesh and Vietnam, almost about 5% each, approximately. So there is a huge gap between China and India, almost 40% and 5%. The figures are startling, and this is the reason why there is a huge potential for India to come up and become one of the world leaders or global leaders in textiles. What is the major textile production in India happens in spinning industry. And the spinning industry, what we have seen the trend 18, 19, 19, 20, the next please, 18, 19 and 19, 20, the production has come, the exports have come down, but in 2021 the exports have gone up, and now we are able to, there is a good increase in the cotton yarn exports, and also the exports not only to China but to countries like Bangladesh have been increasing because they are now becoming one of the world's largest apparel makers. And this is the country-wise, so if you see the country-wise cotton yarn exports, China, Bangladesh, Vietnam and are leading yarn importers from India. And the uptrend in this is because one is the reason is that post-COVID we have seen there is a huge change in the industry. The Vietnam and Bangladesh, which were one of the largest textile manufacturers, are slowing down because of their own internal issues, and China is slowly vacating this space. China is vacating this space because they are trying to allocate land to more other uses and coming out of textiles, and which is a huge opportunity for India as to take their place. And also this what we have seen is there are logistical issues. The cost of logistics have gone up tremendously, and that also is the reason why some other countries are not able to compete with countries like India, who are having much more competitive edge compared to them. Next please. That we have seen the trend in prices have gone up in last 1.5 years. The raw material prices have gone up almost by 50%, and the prices of finished goods and the yarns have gone up also in tandem because of huge global supply constraints, and some of the countries which were earlier exporting have reduced their production and the supply across the country. Now, why is textile a sunrise sector? Apart from what I said about China and textile and the space it is vacating, there is an increased penetration of organized retail and favorable demographics and rising income levels in domestic market itself, which would drive the demand, because we have the young population who would traditionally buy more textiles compared to the population if it is more aged. Comparatively, the Indian technical textile market is in infant stage. We are still the European countries like Germany, Italy are much ahead, and the Indian textile market is expected to grow to about 23 billion by 2027. Additionally, if you have seen in last 1.5 years during COVID, it was textile industry which has risen to the occasion by producing PPE kits and the suitable equipments, where we never had any PPE kit production in India. So it was only after COVID that immediately within last March, after the COVID started in India, within 3 months we increased the capacity to not only to meet the domestic demand but even to export. And today I am telling you that we have surplus capacity in PPE that we can export not to the other countries also. And also what happens is that why does India enjoy this advantage is because it has skilled manpower, and in cost of production we are much lower than other countries compared to countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam. We are much more competitive. And also in other fibers like jute and silk also we are getting self-reliant, and in silk we'll get self-reliant next 2 years. And also huge investments in textile as an industry is coming up, and schemes like integrated textile parks and technology upgradation fund, huge funds have been released by the government to encourage more players to come in and provide employment, because textile is one sector which can provide huge employment and solve one of the most burning problems of the country. And the major employment would be to the women who are working in rural areas, onto villages and towns, which is a huge plus. What are the policy supports which have been recently in last 1.5 years announced by the government? One is the 100% FDI is allowed in textiles. The production linked incentive was just recently announced in August, where for MMF fibers and fabrics and technical textiles, where the investments of two categories, one was about 100 crores and one is of 300 crores, will get incentives ranging from 15 to 11% for 300 crores and 11 to 7% for an investment of 100 crores of the turnover. And this is for a period of 5 years. Then there was, as Mir Parikji has informed you about the Mitra policy. The Mitra policy is the mega investment textile park, where the government of India envisages 7 mega textile parks, which will have about minimum of 1,000 acres and will have integration from the fiber to the final garment, and which will be shipped out for exports. This is planned so as to make us more competitive and more export oriented, and these 7 textile parks should come up in next 3 years, which is what they project. And apart from cotton textiles, there is a synthetic textile. The worldwide the consumption of synthetic is 60% and cotton is 40%, but in India it is reverse. It's 40% of synthetic and 60% of cotton. So what has happened is, because worldwide people have moved to synthetic because of ease, because of more application, because of more ease of making the garment itself. But in India, we have still been lagging there. So now the government has taken up some steps. One was like anti-dumping duty on viscose stable fiber, which is an important ingredient along with polyester in the textiles. They have removed the anti-dumping duty on VSF fiber, and also they have corrected the inverted duty on MMF under GST, which would come up from January 1st, 2022. In the recent council meeting, they have announced, because what was happening was the duty was progressively higher, and that was resulting in inversely amount to be lied in with the manufacturer. So this inverted duty structure was corrected, and now the garments below 1,000 also will attract 12% GST. Therefore, the inverted duty structure will be corrected. And as sir was telling, RODTEP has been recently announced for textiles retrospectively from January 1st for a period of about 3 years, and the government initiative is that yarns and fabrics and the products have to be imported, not exported, not taxes and duties. Coming to spinning mills spread in India, which is one of the major textile setup. And again here, coming to Tamil Nadu is leading with 50% capacity, even though they don't produce much of raw material. Most of the raw material is getting imported from Telangana, Maharashtra and some other places. And then there are places like, the second comes Maharashtra, Punjab, Andhra, and we are only at 4%. Telangana, because when we bifurcated the state, most of the processing capacity has gone to Andhra, while the raw material capacity has been there in Telangana. So where we produce about 5 to 6 million bales, we only consume hardly 0.5 million bales. So we hardly consume 10% of our production. So that's the reason why Telangana holds a lot of potential, given the rising cost increase in the logistics, whether outbound or inbound. And significance of the industry to the Telangana state, employment generation, we are one industry which employs a lot of people. For 1 megawatt of power, we employ 400 people as compared to a ferroalloy industry of 50 or many other industries. We are the highest employment generator as such. And most of our, as I told you earlier, the rural employment is on rural area. Most of the units are in rural area because they require large areas and they go little far away from the cities. So 90% compared to, let us say, even iron and steel industry, which is 78%. The raw material availability, as I told you, we only consume hardly 10% of our production. And also, it is an industry which aids the farmers. A lot of farmers depend on cotton, and it is thus higher. It is the largest commercial crop cultivated in India, and therefore it would boost. And every industry, or a spinning industry or a garment textile, has a total ecosystem for keeping the workers. They give them housing, they give them subsidized food, they give them free electricity, free water, because it's a labor intensive industry, and that is the perks which they give to keep them with them. And right now we consume about 100 megawatts plus. This is about 2 years back figure, so probably around 150 megawatts of total connected load in Telangana. And coming to next, as I told you, raw material abundant, encouraging TTAP policy. One of the best TTAP policy, the TTAP policy, which is the textile, Telangana apparel and textile policy, is one of the best policies in the country. We, as sir has already spoken on that, elaborated capital subsidy, interest subvention, tax concessions like SGST reimbursement, power tariff subsidies, and textile parks, and encouraging technological advancements. And as such, we know all about Telangana, the TS IPAS, the single window clearance system. Definitely, we have a minister who is very industrial friendly, very immediate, responding immediately, which we feel as an asset to us. Very good infrastructure and power availability. The state now has surplus power, and there is no issues of power as such. Next point. Coming to the issues, because I was given the task of opportunities and challenges, the issues are the raw material cost, which has gone up tremendously. We have the yield, because the yield what we get out of the raw material in India is lower than what we get the yield from imported cotton. So that adds to the cost of the raw material. That is one thing which needs to be solved. The government is already working on it. It would take some time because we also have the issues of contamination. And the power cost. The power cost is a major cost to the industry, because the 45% of production of cost is power, and any increase in the power tariff will alter the viability of the industry. So that is one thing which sometimes are the issue. And the manpower. If there are manpower, has to be always kept in available, because without manpower the industry will not achieve the optimum utilization which is required for a viable growth. Thank you from my side. Thank you for this opportunity, sir. Thank you so much.